Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Movie Mates podcast episode. I am Matthew, joined by my wonderful co-host and best friend.
Callum,
Hey, man, great to see you. So,
good to
on
see you.
today's show, we have another themed episode, and this theme ties into the time of year it is, because of course it's coming up to Christmas very soon, and Callum and I are going to delve into some Christmas classics, just Christmas films in general, actually, for the first time on the channel. So, I'm going to pass over to Callum to explain what two Christmas films we're going to be talking about today. So, Callum, off to you, man.
Yeah, recently, we've been discussing how to sort of put out a lot more videos for you guys, over this sort of festive period. Make sure you're occupied if you're interested. And we hadn't really discussed sort of the idea of a Christmas film in a while, and sorry, the idea of a Christmas episode. We hadn't done one last year. I don't think we ever even covered a Christmas film whatsoever, even coincidentally.
I don't think so, mate. If I'm honest with you, I don't think we have. I think this is the
If you
first
say
one.
Iron Man 3, we're gonna have issue.
No, I don't know. Oh man, I think this is the first Christmas films that we're going to talk about, and we've started off with a bang. To be honest with these two, they're pretty great.
Yeah, and we're going for sort of a blockbuster season in that we're doing two juggernaut episodes.
Juggernaut,
Not
I love
only we're
that.
doing the most famous classic old Christmas films, we're also talking our favorite Christmas films. That's coming to
Absolutely,
you next week. Probably dropping on Christmas Day, which
absolutely,
really the only gift you need that day, of
absolutely. It's
course.
the gift that
Uh,
keeps
you
on
know,
giving, in many respects. Love it.
so so we're talking classic films today, and by classic, once again, we don't mean our favorites. We mean old. Neither of which I'd seen. Had you seen either of these films?
No, mate, hadn't seen either of those films, but I've heard a lot about one in particular. It was a lot of it's a
So
definitive.
the two films that we're going to be talking about today are It's a Wonderful Life and Miracle on 34th Street. Now, I obviously had a vague inkling about the plot of It's a Wonderful Life, even though it drastically differs from sort of my expectations of it.
Yeah.
And Miracle on 34th Street, all that I really knew was sort of the trial of Santa, and really I knew more about sort of the 1990s reimagining with the
Yeah.
actress who played Matilda and Richard Attenborough.
Yes, yes. And part of me before before we did this podcast, I was worried that that was the one we were doing. I was like, oh no, which one do I watch? But luckily, I chose the right one of these. And I think these are the first black and white films we've talked about since probably American Classics episode, right? Well, Mank, obviously, I
I
suppose as
think so.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah, these are some old films, man. These are what, like 1940s. What is it? It's Wonderful Life, like 46 though,
yeah.
isn't it? Crazy old.
Yes, It's a Wonderful Life, 1946. Miracle on 34th Street, 1947.
Yeah,
So
these
very
are
very quick
old.
succession for two like absolute bangers.
That is quite strange, isn't it? Like both of the two definitive Christmas films are like so close together. That's weird. But
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, and then in the sort of history of American cinema, like it feels like a lot of big films came out close together. I mean, Gone with the Wind for some reason is regarded as one of the greatest films of all
Yeah.
time. That was 1939, then very quickly followed up in 1941 by Citizen Kane,
Yes.
which is one of the greatest films
Is
of all
yeah,
time, and I'm not
absolutely.
going to dispute that.
Absolutely.
It's at least unquestionably revolutionary. Whether you question it, whether it holds up today,
For sure.
revolutionary.
For sure.
But if we sort of just want to go into It's a Wonderful Life, unless you had any other
No,
opening comments
no,
or
mate, crack
things to
on.
let the viewers know
Absolutely.
about.
Let's go. Let's go for it. Nice one.
So, as I'd sort of alluded to earlier, this is a very different film than I expected, and I think we'll go into that quite extensively. But sort of my opening reaction uh, is that I really thought that this experience that the character of George Bailey has would be more of a magical one than a religious one. That we see God interacting with angels and then sending on a guardian angel for George. And for the 1940s, I really enjoyed like the visual of the communication between the
Mm,
Celestials. They sort of they're visually represented as like space formations, like clouds and stars.
yeah.
And I thought it was a lot less cheesy than I would expect. Even like Bill and Ted, from the
Yeah.
1990s, were they like Bogus Journey? Was that 1990s
think it was
or was that
90.
1980s?
I think it was 1991, and then 1989 was the first one, maybe.
Yes, for the 1990s, they're sort of going like cheesy, stereotypical, men in the clouds.
Yeah.
So to see sort of a more humble, understated version that actually looked more visually unique than sort of the stereotypes. I thought it was really cost effective and looked really good for the time.
100%, man. I couldn't agree more. I think the concept of this film is definitely like it's probably one of the first times something like this has been done, where the main character goes through sort of a transformation, so to speak, internally and morally as well. Where he goes from being such a happy-go-lucky guy, where by sort of the middle he's down on his luck and is suicidal. But it's a really great film, and as you said, that sort of opening, it's a really good point that you made, but it's more of like a religious connotation rather than like a supernatural one. That's such I hadn't actually picked up on that, but it's so true. I suppose that ties in with like Christmas as well, with it being somewhat of originally like a religious celebration in some cultures as well. So, well, whether that's the main reason for it or not, but I suppose like in our in the
Did you
country.
see me making like a sour
Yeah, I
face,
did.
or did you just like
No, I did. I
I don't
think
know.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. But yeah, like the James Stewart as George Bailey is so good, isn't he? He's unreal in this. He's one of the best performances. I love it.
Well, yeah, we talk a lot about acting at the time, and I have to admit, both him and the actress who plays his wife Mary, I apologies, I forget her name.
You're okay.
But we talk a lot about acting at the time, and I think they're both fantastic. Acting at the time was, in my opinion, like a very low standard for adults, and I think that's abundantly clear when you see the child actors, because they're understandably an even lower standard.
Yeah.
But my question to you is, their acting capability isn't necessarily up to the par of child actors of today, but are they less annoying at least?
I actually thought the kids in this film weren't too bad. They're not in it for a huge amount because, like, the film, I suppose, tries to develop George as his individual character first, with his dynamic with, Mr. Gower and people in the town. But yeah, like
Yeah,
I thought that the children weren't so bad, but like there was a bit towards the end where I quite liked when when he comes back to his realization that he's thankful for everything in his life again. He just hugs his kids. It's a really sweet moment as well. But no, I thought they weren't as bad as like an Eddie Furlong or somewhere like that. What about you?
yeah, I think the acting standard is lower, than say like I'll be generous and not compare not even compare them to Edward Furlong, but like a Ty Simpkins in Iron Man 3, or
Yeah.
like a whatever that kid's name is in Chef,
Yeah.
John Favreau's son in Chef. Uh, those kids are more annoying, but I think they give a better performance, where it's the opposite here. So I think it was a more enjoyable watch, at least, even though their acting ability wasn't necessarily honed at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't have ridiculous standards for children. You can't be like, oh, that was terrible. They're like they haven't had enough time to mature,
Yeah.
in
That's
the
true.
career.
That's true.
But you know, I've sort of made the point already that this film isn't what I expected it to be. And honestly, throughout, I was just making comments like, "Do we need this flashback?" And I kept thinking, "Flashback, flashback, flashback." And then I realized very late in the game, this is the movie.
Yes.
It's like it
Exactly
starts
the
with
same as me.
you know with their present day, Christmas Day. His family and his kids are wishing him well. Praying for him to you know sort of come to terms with the hardship in his life, and to reconcile with that, and try to enjoy Christmas with his family. And then I thought they were flashing back, giving some context, and then I just realized that that's the movie.
Yeah.
Initially I had felt some light context, sorry, some light exposition, could mean a fair amount of that could be trimmed, and I do still think that. But I think maybe to sort of elevate maybe the nuance of the film, sort of a Citizen Kane non-linear narrative may have been more fitting. I feel like starting starting the film with him contemplating suicide and then jumping back is maybe a better idea than just being
Yeah.
like, this is his entire life. This is what's led up to this. Like I feel like you need that moment and then
Yeah.
context behind it, and I
Yeah.
feel
I
like
think that's
that
true.
maybe makes the moment more powerful.
I think that's true, buddy, because I think maybe at the time in 1946 that would have been a really interesting new concept. But like from like when we're watching this in 2020, it kind of seems that it comes across very basic, as in it starts off when he was quite young and the story progresses as he gets older, kind of thing, and then finally catches up when he's about to commit suicide by jumping off the bridge. I think you're right. I think the Citizen Kane sort of non-linear narrative where it where it sort of like jumps between different points in George's life. I think that would have been a lot riskier because it could have became like, I mean, we reviewed Tenet and films like that. It could have became like a bit of a narrative mess like that film. But I think I do think the film maybe doesn't come across as a quintessential Christmas film up until that last half hour, because a lot of it is very much flashbacks, on, and a lot of the scenes aren't even set at Christmas for the most part. But no, as the film progresses, I have to say I did reconsider that point, that I can definitely understand why it is a quintessential Christmas film. But when I was an hour and a half in and it was getting to the last half hour, I was
Yeah,
like, oh, I'm not sure if this is a Christmas film. You know what I mean? Of course, it's a Christmas film,
yeah.
but you know what I mean?
No, yeah, I absolutely agree. Like, I agree, it's a classic, but is it a Christmas classic? Because yeah, I think it doesn't even really meet the criteria for a Christmas film. I mean, we've sort of been debating like what are the bare essentials? Because you asked me, is Iron Man 3 a Christmas film?
Yeah,
Die Hard, those kinds of films where it's not about a family coming together at Christmas or something. It's just coincidentally set at the time.
yeah,
And it's not as though like I think it would be more authentic Christmas if like the financial woes were related to him, having to save money for Christmas or something,
yeah,
because then that would be
yeah.
about
That's a good idea.
it would be he maybe is contemplating suicide because he doesn't know that he can support his family, at this difficult financial time.
Hmm.
I don't know. I feel like that could have more intrinsically linked it to Christmas, a bit
Yeah.
further. But I feel bad criticizing this film because I do think it's great, but I think they showed too much of George Bailey's life to make him likable. And like watching a lot of these old films just shows like how low the bar was set for men. Like who's considered a good guy. Like the bar
Yeah.
has been raised significantly.
Yeah.
Because I mean there is one point where he forces Mary to stay naked whilst trapped in a
Yes.
bush, and he's just laughing and like like strolling around like pissing
Yeah.
himself like, oh, this is legendary. Like
Yeah.
I am a
Oh, I
top
know.
shagger. Like he just
Yeah,
thinks
yeah,
he's
yeah.
he thinks he's awesome, but
I had
like
the
he's
exact
just
same point. I had the
disgusting,
exact same
really.
point. Like there's a moment where like George says to Mary, like, let's take our shoes off and run in the fields. And it kind of reminded me of that classic Theresa May quote where an interviewer asks her what's the naughtiest thing she's done. And she's like, well, I used to run in the wheat fields of, whatever county it was. I thought that was quite funny. But the George and Mary relationship is quite sweet. Although the scene where like my exact words were, what the fuck is George doing when he's not giving her Mary her own robe, and she's just in like a bush naked. Like that was a weird scene in there, because he sort of
Yeah,
presented like a really innocent guy, but then he does that. I like
I know.
George.
Like it's not charming or endearing, but like, and she seemed like really serious. But then the next time she sees him, which I think is 4 years later or something, she's like giggly, like, "Ooh,
Ooh,
hi,
yeah,
hi, George."
yeah,
And I'm like,
literally.
have better standards, Mary. You are a sweetheart.
I
So
know. Mary's lovely.
have higher standards. But yeah, no, I agree with you. The scene where he asks, the other girl, what was her name? Was it Bridget? I
I didn't note
honestly
it. I didn't note it.
a lot of these names sort of swept past me in these
Yeah, no, me
films.
too, man.
Uh, but my favorite part of that scene wasn't the line where he says like, oh, we can run in the fields bare feet. It was the fact, like, and this was my favorite part of the film. It was the fact that like he says that and no one's around, and then as soon as he's finished like with the request, somehow a whole crowd is formed to come and laugh at him. And like I just found it hilarious because
Yeah.
I mean he's just making like a sweet declaration of affection, saying, "Oh, do you want to go on a nice date?" And people were like,
Yeah.
"Oh, look at this fucking dickhead!"
Yeah,
Like I
literally,
don't know.
literally. I know,
Like
I know.
have you seen like the I don't know, it reminded me of this meme. And it's like of Ross from Friends, and it's him doing like this action, going like, "Get a look at this fucking idiot." Like, I don't know.
I've
It
seen
just
that. I've
reminded
seen
me of
that.
that.
Oh, dude. And one thing about the George and Mary romance, like I love that romance. I think it's so sweet. But like I know the film's narrative is Wayne Klein, but like the film just cuts to them like asking each other out, and then they marry, and then they're married, and then they have kids, kind of thing. It's very chop chop chop. But that being
Yeah, I
said,
feel like
like,
this is an even bigger issue in Miracle on 34th Street.
yeah, no, it is. But the thing that made me maybe feel the most bad for the Bailey family is when George and Mary used their own honeymoon savings to keep the bank afloat. I was like, that's really sad. Like that's sort of like, he is a really nice guy deep down, and I suppose like Clarence tries to show him that later on in the film.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was more Mary's moment
Mary
because
as well, yeah, yeah,
she wished for a happy marriage to George for whatever reason, even though she can clearly do better. But then she just willingly gives that away with a smile, and
Yeah, no,
I
she
just think
does.
Mary's a great character. But
100%.
I really just think films of this era were incapable of having a romance where both of the characters weren't dodgy. Like I think I would
Hmm.
struggle to name a film that we've watched between like 1940 or like 1939, because let's get Gone with the Wind in there.
Yeah.
Like between 1930 and like 1980, probably. There's like one slightly dodgy character. I mean, Rocky and Adrian. Uh,
Oh
you know,
yeah. Like,
Benjamin and Elaine in The
bet
Graduate.
that's a big one. Yeah, that's a big
I
one.
mean,
You're
every
so right.
character in Gone with the Wind is in the bin, obviously.
Yeah. I think maybe like the first really rom-com that sort of did a really successful relationship that was critically applauded was probably like When Harry Met Sally or something like that, like one of those ones where it's like, that is, even though that relationship is intentionally quite rocky, I suppose, in parts as well. But
Yeah,
yeah, but it's interesting that I don't think it's the intention of like of any of those classic movies like we've mentioned, like Gone with well, I suppose with like The Graduate, it's intentional to be a little bit weird. But like
yeah.
in this
My,
film,
my
I don't
favorite
think.
scene in The Graduate is still like, do you remember the scene where he takes Elaine out, but he's like pretending to be a dickhead? So like, it cuts to him in a strip club and he's wearing sunglasses and has a cigarette hanging out of his mouth.
Yeah, there's just naked women. Oh, brilliant. I love that movie so much, man. It's so good, isn't it?
I love it so much.
It's unreal.
I was that was a film that I think really surprised me, because I thought it would maybe be a bit weird and uncomfortable, but I didn't actually think I would find it like funny or nuanced or interesting, and it just immediately shot to one of my favorite films.
It's so good, man. I love it. I love it so much. And like, this film here, like it's another one that similar to The Graduate, like it really surprised me as well. Like I sort of made a note here that I think the film really takes off in the last half an hour. And I love that transition, like the main focal point of the film where, Clarence shows George like how to live again and be thankful for it. And it's a really good. I think maybe the film plot wise isn't so intrinsically Christmas, but the message of it is. I think so. I think maybe that's why it's sort of as it characterizes that kind of Christmas film sort of vibe.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And on a very unrelated, I mean, like not even related to the film, barely, but fashion of the time, for whatever reason, like I just love it so
I love
much.
it. It's
Like,
so good.
you know,
It's so good, isn't it?
there are scenes where he's wearing like this chunky suit and a trilby, and I was just like,
He's
he
the man
looks
about
like a
town.
fucking Don.
He looks
Like,
like the
like
boss.
that is
Yeah,
my yeah, like that is my dream. I mean, we went to a 1920s party once, and I think we both really
that was
committed
fun.
to the costume.
Yeah, no,
And
I
I was
like.
dressed as like a full mobster. But
Yeah,
if I stuck on like an overcoat, like I would be living my best life.
you would be, mate. You would be like, I think you're right. The fashion in the 1940s it's certainly something. It's certainly good, and like I think it just adds so much charm to the film. Like the film is so of its time that I just love it. It kind of makes me think like when the thing that sort of made me sort of a little bit not sad necessarily, but like a little bit just curious is that like yeah, during that time, like if you couldn't get a hold of someone on the phone, like like there's a lot of scenes in this film where like there's just characters on the phone, and even the phones are so strange. But like it just think like you'd never really think if you couldn't get a hold of someone on the phone, like you just call around to their house. Like that was just the norm here. George just calls around to Mary's house and like kicks her fence in and stuff like that. It's so strange. But no, I love it. It's such a great like of its time film. So it is. I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, minutes later in that scene, like he's aggressively snogging her face off. But I mean, he's been an absolute knobhead. Like
Yeah,
he's kicked her fencing, he's taken the piss out of her lovely drawing, and then
yeah,
he's
literally.
in person ghosted her. Like George Bailey's meant to be like the sweetest man on earth. Piece of shit. If we had
He
to give him
gives
a
really weird
massive header, piece
kisses.
of shit, piece of
Piece
shit.
of
He doesn't deserve Mary.
he gives the weirdest kisses I've ever seen. He always like gobbles them up, kind of thing, isn't it? Like blah, blah. It's so weird. I don't know how to describe that. But no, I know what you mean. But he's one of those characters where like everyone loves him, but we just have a mindset of like not for us. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
weird.
and like sort of further to like the weird portrayal of like women and relationships with men. Just sort of the casual sexism. That Mary's considered an old maid in this alternate timeline because she's not married and in her mid 30s. Oh,
Yeah,
she's gonna die alone. Like
yeah,
I don't get it. Like I mean, surely you know plenty of people. If it was around the time of World War One, I guess is. I mean, yeah. Which war is is Henry? Sorry, which war is Harry coming back from? Is
I
he
think it's
coming
World
back from
War.
the Second World
I
War?
think it's World War Two because I don't know. I think isn't George like denied enlistment because of his deafness in his right ear or something from the beginning of the film. It's something like World War. I think it's World War Two. I think it's World War Two.
Yeah, yeah. I think it says George was born in like 1919. So yeah, it must have been World War II. But I'm sure there's plenty of single lads
Yeah, you
that
think
would be
so?
coming back wanting to snap Mary up. She's bloody lovely, and George
She's an
doesn't
absolute
deserve her.
delight. She's so nice. She has, she when George comes around, she puts the record on. She's got like a little painting of like Lasso the Moon or something that was a saying
Hmm.
of George's. What a delight! What a delight!
And one parallel that I made in this film to another character that we despise in other films is the Uncle Bill character who loses 8 grand. And
Polly.
I just wanted to point out he is the Polly of this film. And for people who
Bastard.
don't know that, I'm referencing uh, Burt Young's character from the Rocky franchise, Polly, who is a character in those films for some reason that we've never heard of before watching them. And he's a piece of shit. Absolute
Agreed.
absolute piece of shit.
No,
Does
that
not
bit.
deserve to. I mean, I'm looking forward to Creed, to talking about Creed,
Because
because
he's not in them.
there's a yep, there's a lovely little moment, and I cheered, and we'll talk about that in a few days, I guess. But yeah, he is like Uncle Bill. I share the exact same sentiment as I do with Polly, that he should have been disowned from that family, because it doesn't even end with him recovering the money. People come and like give their money to George to bail him out. Uncle Bill does nothing. Like
Yeah,
he has lost all that money, and he does nothing to fix that.
yeah,
Like it's Mary that fixes the issue by like banding all these people together. And once again, Bill is a useless sack of shit.
it's so true. Like, I think like when the George and Mary are using their honeymoon savings to like withdraw money for people in the bank, like people are like, oh, can I have $172? And that doesn't seem a lot, but when you think about it, like if when oh, what's the guy's name? Mr. Potter, isn't it? Like, is the like the
Yeah,
kingpin of the town? Like, when he offers like George a job of like 20 grand a year, like that today standards probably like over like 200 grand or something. If their honeymoon savings is like 2,000 alone, like that must be a really high paying
yeah,
job. And I actually thought the inclusion of like a Mr. Potter style character is like it's sort of it sort of reminded me a little bit of Mank, and sort of like how isn't it like Hearst in that film is like the kingpin conglomerate of all these like news publications. And so like
mm,
in this film, it seems like Mr. Potter is like the kingpin of the town. He's kind of like taking over everything, and it's just like pretty much the Bailey Bank that remains. So I really like that sort of dynamic there between those two. I thought it was really smart, and he kind of reminded me of like an evil Professor X, just like he's got like goons that work for him and stuff, and he's like just rolling about the town. What a guy.
I was like, are you gonna go for the rolling around in the wheelchair comment?
Oh no,
And
no, oh
you
no.
you committed to
I
it.
committed to it, mate. I committed to it. But no, like, yeah, I like this character. I like this character. God,
Do you have anything further on It's a Wonderful Life, Matthew?
no.
Well, then I would love to hear your rating of the film.
Well, I really, this film really surprised me. Big fan, big fan. I love all the characters in it. I think every character has his place, his and her place, and yeah, it really surprised me. Really great message and a really really great Christmas film. I'd give it a 9 out of 10. Man, big fan, big fan. What about yourself, man?
Yeah, it was massively different plot wise to what I thought it would be, but it exceeded my expectations in quality. I don't love every character in it, but I love the film that they're in.
Mm-hmm.
George
It's a good
Bailey.
point.
I suppose the entire point of the film is that he's a good man. He's had like a bad day. He's like the Joker. What one bad day
One
away
bad
from
day. Yeah, yeah.
going insane. But it feels like he had more than one bad day. He seems like kind of a bad dude. Well, I mean, at least a good dude with a bit of a weird like power play
Sense of humor.
dominatrix
Yeah.
kind of streak. With women he doesn't know. It was a bit odd. I mean, she eventually married him, so maybe she was okay with it. But for how select they are with like which years of their lives they like cherry pick to show, I think they could have left that wee bit out. You know,
Hmm.
I think
Yeah,
it
yeah.
would have improved his sort of moral standing within the film.
Hmm.
But as I said, don't always love the characters. Love the film they're in though. I agree with you. 9 out of 10.
Awesome, man, awesome. I was really surprised in the film. Glad I watched it. Another film that surprised me on a good side as well is the next film we're going to be talking about, Miracle on 34th Street. And this film is a lot more like well, it's definitely a lot more Santa focused, isn't it? It's very much a Santa
Yeah,
film.
like yeah, this is a quintessential Christmas film. I think unquestionably that this is Christmas. This is what Christmas is about. Commercialism and getting people on
Yes,
trial. Yes,
literally,
that's what
yes.
American Christmas is. Yeah,
Yeah,
the legal
that's
system.
the real American dream. But here, yeah, this film we should have mentioned the off pod, but this film is a breeze, isn't it? It goes in really quickly.
Yeah, I mean, just clocks in over 90 minutes, and I was checking how long was left, but that was just whether I had enough, hours in the day to finish it, rather than, oh, I want this to be over. I was loving every minute of it.
Absolutely,
Uh, if we want to like jump into it, I still have no love for credits at the beginning of a film. I'm
it's
forever
unnatural.
loyal to George Lucas for changing that. Uh, you know, yeah,
I know,
opening
I'm with
credits
you.
just aren't for me.
I'm with you.
And
100%, dude, 100%.
what was your impression of Santa or Chris Kringle? From the offset, he sort of walks up to the shop owner and sort of is like, "Oh, you're displaying the reindeer wrong." But I mean, it's not like you've sent out publicity shots. Like, what do you expect from him?
Man, I feel like an idiot because I sort of like my initial notes for the film were like, oh, this guy Chris Kringle, he's a bit of an asshole, he's a bit mean to some of these store owners. And I was like, oh no, he's actually a lovely guy. He's actually Santa. But
Is
no,
he? I
well,
mean, we'll get into it. But I
we'll get
mean,
into it.
I really respect this film that like the plot kicks in immediately, no waffle.
No
But
waffle.
the film, I kind of agree. My initial reaction was this guy's a bit of an asshole. He's a bit of a, I mean, he is trying to be nice to the store owner, but he is condescending. But also there's the revelation whenever he's sort of running through like a quick tutorial with the intoxicated Macy Santa, provides the information that Santa whips the reindeer, and he's
That
pretending
unsettles
like these
me.
reindeer are like his friends or partners. They're your slaves. Which just really disappointed me because like my immediate reaction was, oh, he seems really sweet. He doesn't realize he's being a bit of a tool, but then he's like
Yeah.
cracking the whip, and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh,
I had my first note of the film was like the thought of Santa whipping his reindeers really unsettles me.
yeah,
I
like
hate
it's
that.
it's fucked.
Yeah, like they're supposed to be Santa's equals. They're his transportation. They make Christmas possible for children. Without them, there's no Christmas. But I don't know. It really unsettled me that like the thought of like they're like horses getting whipped. I really didn't like that. So I didn't.
Yeah, that's the real reason Rudolph's nose is red.
Oh Jesus! Yeah, it
Stepped out of line.
is. Yeah,
And
steps out of line.
we've talked briefly about Chris Kringle and our immediate reaction of him. If you want to talk about the other
Yeah,
side of that, which is the I suppose if you think of him as like a magical character, we can talk about the human characters. So we're introduced to Susan, played by the very famous Natalie Wood. I don't know if you know much about Natalie Wood, but if you don't, look up the Do Go On podcast episode about
cool, cool.
about Natalie Wood's death, because it's incredibly interesting, and there's still sort of investigation around it.
I'll
But
link it in
the
the
character of
description.
Susan, oh yeah, that'd be great. The character of Susan describes her marriage to Mr. Gailey as though she's never met him, and it came across as very clunky because I think she actually has a lot of potential as a young actress. I mean, she went on to have a massive career, and she was probably the most famous child actress of all time potentially. But here, some of the dialogue I think she's sort of uh, saddled with is a bit clunky.
Yeah, I think so. It's weird because I feel like the character who has like the best lines is definitely Chris Kringle. I think maybe the filmmakers and the screenwriter is a lot more comfortable with that character, whereas like a lot of the dialogue with other characters does come across as a little clunky in moments, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if you've presumably been friends with this man for weeks or months or potentially years, and he's been, for some reason, even though he's never met her, trying to slide in with your mom, even though it's not like you can see social media, it's the 1940s. He probably has no idea what she looks like, but he's
Yeah,
trying to slide in with your mom by getting a personal relationship with her child. I mean,
it sounds
he then
strange when
says,
they put it
"Oh
like
yeah,
that, doesn't it?
yeah." I mean, he goes, "Oh well, how else do you get in with the mother? You befriend the kid." And I'm like, well, usually you do that after,
After,
they see,
yeah,
yeah, like they see, oh, he's good with my daughter, he'll be a good boyfriend. Usually you're friends alongside them. You don't like
yeah,
adopt this child as your friend and then like invite yourself
yeah.
around to theirs for Christmas dinner.
It's
Sorry,
not,
for Thanksgiving dinner.
yeah,
It's a bit odd,
it is
but
weird.
he seems to have good intentions.
Yeah. Yeah. He seems like good intentions, but it's like it's not as if the kid's like a work colleague of his. Like he doesn't even he barely knows her. But
Yeah.
yeah. Um, the thing about this film that really surprised me is the actor who plays Chris Kringle. Like I think his name's Edmund Gwen, a great name. He looks exactly how I would imagine Santa would look like in real life. Like we've seen a lot of movies where like I think Kurt Russell is Santa Claus in a movie, isn't he, as well?
Yeah, the Christmas Chronicles.
Christmas Chronicles. Yeah, I think that's a good casting as well. But like Santa, definitive Santa, that is Edmund Gwen for me. Like he looks exactly how I'd imagine him. And he gives such a charming performance for the most part as well, despite his opening in the first part of the film as well. I suppose that's the
And then
intention. Like,
him smack, like him like caving someone's dome in later in the film.
yeah, that was a good one. But yeah, like the film really does make you consider like how the impact of Santa has on people in society. And it's something I want to ask you. Like, do you think in 100 years, like the tale of Santa will still be a part of Christmas? Because I'm not sure if it will. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the idea of Saint Nicholas has been around for hundreds of years,
Yeah.
and sort of our modern interpretation of like the visual of Santa, was developed by Coca-Cola. I think maybe, I mean, presumably it was before this, so it must have been in the 1920s, 1930s.
Yeah.
So it's still like a recent fabrication, like the immediately like visually recognizable figure. So I think maybe 100 years, 200 years down the line, who knows how like technology will advance. We may be in a world in the future where like lying isn't possible. Like that's
Yeah, that's
honestly
true. That's true, mate.
possible potential technology. We may all be, well, not us, but future generations may be given a chip which makes lying impossible. And
Yeah, that's true, mate.
like in
That's a good
the
point. Yeah.
Ricky Gervais film The Invention of Lying, just throwing in a film reference there.
Love
Haven't
it.
even seen it, but
I love
um
that.
but yeah, no, mm, I sort of want to get into this with a question I had for you. Like, do
Go
you
for it.
share Doris's cynicism towards Santa? Like, how I wanted to know how you plan to raise your kids, whether you want to convince
Mm.
them that Santa's real or embrace the truth. And I'll give you my views after I've heard from you.
I think yeah, I really like the concept of Santa. I think it's really sweet. But mm, I think I definitely would raise my kid. Obviously, it would depend on my partner as well, what she wanted. But if we came to the decision that yeah, okay, we'll raise the kid believing in Santa. I think that's a really sweet concept as well. But it's hard to say because I remember when I discovered Santa wasn't real. Like I was a little bit gutted. Like you would be, wouldn't you? You'd be a little bit gutted. Like
Yeah,
ah,
but
damn.
like you're an only child. So how did you find out?
I found out because we used to write notes for Santa, and my mum had very specific handwriting, and then Santa would magically leave notes back, and I used my Law and Order detective skills and matched the two handwritings, and that was it. Santa never existed again. How did you find out?
My siblings just told me, and they told me what I was getting for Christmas. So pretty shit
Brutal.
year, not gonna lie.
When was that?
Not ideal. Do you say how old was
Yeah, how
I?
old? Yeah.
Was maybe 7 or 8.
That's
Like
young
I
as
mean,
well. That's really young.
is it? Like I feel like that's approaching a bit too old. Like I feel like if you've hit 10 and you still believe in Santa, maybe questionable. How old were
Yeah.
you then?
I think it was maybe like 10, maybe. I think 10
Okay.
was maybe last year. But no.
Yeah, no, I think that's an acceptable age, and yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think it's a decision to be made mutually between you and whoever you're raising your kids with, or if you're raising your kid alone, obviously an independent decision for you.
How would you do
Ideally for
it?
me, yeah, something that would be discussed, but I'm an honest guy, and I really don't think Santa. Like, I don't think the magic of Christmas is about Santa. I think removed from that, Christmas magic still exists because
Yeah,
I mean,
that's fair. That's
I,
a
I
really
get
good
I
point.
get more excited for Christmas these years than I did as a child. Because I feel
That's
like
really
I can
interesting. Yeah.
comprehend it more. And Christmas is a lot better when you can spend it with sort of the because I mean sometimes for a lot of people, not for me in this instance, but, for a lot of people, spending time with their families isn't ideal. So sort of as you grow older, you sort of get to build your own family with your friends. and they're the ones that you're able to spend time with the more older and the more independent you get. So I feel like the Christmas magic develops in different ways, and Santa isn't necessarily sort of the crutch that people seem to think he is. But I think ideally I would not let my child believe in Santa. I would just tell them the truth, but then I would worry about for the sake of the other children whose parents have chosen to tell them that Santa is real. I feel like I feel like the kind of kid I would raise would just be like, actually, I should tell you this.
Yeah,
I
honestly,
feel
bad
like
policy kind of thing.
a kid I
Yeah.
would raise would be like a snitch. But also, just on a selfish level, I want the credit. Like
For the presents, yeah.
if I'm forking
Exactly.
out some serious peas, like I want my kids saying thank you, Dad, not like, oh, Santa really, like whatever the kids are saying, in like 2040 or whatever, like
Dear
uh,
Riddler's fan.
big dub or
Big
whatever.
day. Yeah. That's how much the Movie Mates podcast is making us, mate. We're forking out the cash and presents. That's it. But no, I personally I love what you're saying there, mate. To be honest, absolutely love it. I think you're definitely like I don't think there's a wrong answer here. I think you're right, and it just depends. Like I know a lot of people who like never really a lot of families who didn't really grew up with Santa, and I know a lot of people who did. So it's weird. Like I think it's a nice thing as well, but likewise, like there's nothing wrong if you don't want to approach it. Of course, it's not like I'm trying to think. It's Santa's sort of sort of different thing to like the Easter Bunny. Like the Easter Bunny is not like a huge thing over here, particularly. Um, it's
Or
kind
the
of like
tooth
that.
fairy.
Tooth Fairy's
Like
not huge.
I
Yeah.
don't think anyone ever really entertains here that the tooth fairy is a real thing. Like you just like you just get money for pain, really.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, and I know what you mean, buddy. I know what you mean. And like, I think this film, like, it's the big focal point of the film is, I suppose, like proving Kris Kringle's identity as Santa. It's weird because like a court case, sort of, it's a court case in a Christmas film is initially not something I thought would really work in this kind of film. That's really like upbeat and try to prove a point, but like it really works. I think it's really great. It's sort of it's maybe obviously it's not to the extent of the court case in like To Kill a Mockingbird or something like that. It's a totally different scenario, but here like it kind of I could sort of see why like you know it's obviously like it's hard it's sort of hard to see why the judge would say oh no Santa's not real, but when you think about it like there's no really evidence that he's not Santa. There's no evidence that he is Santa, but there's no evidence that he's really not Santa in a way as well, I suppose, from the court's perspective here. It's an interesting one.
Yeah, it sort of gave me a headache. I described it as cute but unconvincing. And when it came to the sort of as they refer to it, like the burden of proof, who has to prove either way.
Hmm.
For me, I feel like the prosecution is equally responsible to prove that he isn't real, because they're saying this man is insane because he claims he's Santa, and then Mr. Gailey is trying to prove that Santa is real and that Kris Kringle is Santa. But I feel
Yeah.
like yeah, I feel like if the court is then open to the perception that Santa is real, then they, in order to prove that he is insane, need to prove that he isn't Santa. Like I feel like the burden of
Yeah.
uh that what's the phrase they use, burden of proof. I feel like that onus is on them.
Yeah, like we see, like for evidence, like the prosecution like provide all the letters that the public have sent to Santa for like Christmas wishes and stuff, which is it's a really sweet idea. It kind of it's quite a funny like gag in the film that like there's so many people keep coming into the courtroom with like sackloads of letters and stuff, which is really funny. But it's an interesting one. Like yeah, you kind of sort of think it would be the responsibility of everyone just to suggest just to prove it, whether he is Santa or not, of course. And it kind of makes me think like what like I suppose what's Santa doing? Just like shouldn't he be like what's he doing in this city? Shouldn't he be in North Pole or something? But anyway, um no, I thought I thought the court case was something I didn't think was gonna work, but I actually really thought it was quite charming. Yeah, I loved it.
And since we've talked a lot about like the idea of belief in Santa, I think it needs to be said, and this is applicable to every Santa Claus film. And as I talked to you about this off podcast, and I think we'll be talking about it a lot in Elf.
Hmm.
But how do the adults not believe in Santa when presents they didn't buy arrive under the tree? Like, is this mind wiping manipulation?
Yeah.
Mind control. Like, do you think it's the is Santa just a toy connoisseur? Because like all he's doing at Macy's is suggesting where they themselves can buy the presents. He's not saying like I'll sort it out for you.
Yeah.
He's saying like yeah, go to Gimbals, it's this price,
Hmm.
but do you think it's that he has the elves make the presents, delivers the presents, and then the parents' minds are altered to believe that they bought them? Like, do you think there's that comes under his magic?
Yeah, that's actually a really good one. Like, usually you don't really see the aftermath in Christmas films where like the parents go, "How did that get there?" kind of thing. You know what I mean? I kind
Yeah,
of like how Arthur Christmas did it, where it's like the elves sort of infiltrate the houses and stuff, and sort of like leave the presents there, and like no one's really none the wiser. I like to think there's probably like Santa's magic. I think that's a good idea actually, to sort of like he casts a spell that the parents believe that they want them and stuff. I think that's a good idea. What about you?
yeah. I think it's a case of, yeah, the well, I mean, this is all dependent on the fact that we're making the assumption that Chris Kringle in this film is Santa and that Santa exists within this universe.
Hmm.
That's in question, and we'll maybe go into theories about who Chris Kringle is if he isn't Santa. But yeah, I think it must be a sort of mind wipe situation, because I mean, you're not seeing your kids play with like the Nintendo Switch and being like, hmm, that came out of nowhere.
Yeah, you'd
Wow,
be a little bit creeped out.
let's move on.
Yeah,
You
no,
know,
literally,
Doris
literally,
is just
dude.
like, must be my divorced husband. I don't
Yeah,
know.
he's back again. But yeah, no, I think that's an interesting one. Like going into this theories of Santa, like, do you think? Because the sort of it's sort of a similar thing, you know. I think the ending was really heartwarming, and you know, we see that the little girl who had sort of asked Santa for that cottage and stuff. Like we see that Chris Kringle's cane is there, or what is believed to be Chris Kringle's cane. I suppose like I was kind of confused because I sort of thought, you know, the film sort of presents that like the Chris Kringle character, who I'll just refer to as Santa for simplicity, like he's a little bit unsure if he can provide this cottage for the little girl, but then by the end he does. And it kind of got me thinking, like, is he just a guy who like really believes in the magic of Christmas? So like he just went with it like the full way. Like he became like this city Santa kind of thing. Like he's just I don't know. But then
Yeah.
I suppose he just is Santa. Then I suppose that's the message. But
Well, I
what were you
mean,
thinking?
like you say he got them the house. It seems like he just broke into a house, put up a swing, left his cane, and then these people have just stumbled upon it and decided to buy it. Because whenever I saw that, I was just like, yeah, sure, leaving your cane is cute, Chris. Maybe leave the fucking deed to the house. you know, because
Yeah.
like, these people, like these, two adults who have been dating maybe a week and a half, just make
Oh,
out and then
brilliant.
go, yeah, let's live together, baby. Let's sink $500,000 into this new house because your daughter is a spoiled brat. You know, uh, I don't know.
I love the way Santa's just like, okay, I'm selecting the house for you guys. No, you guys got to pay for it, kind of thing.
Yeah,
It's just
like he's
silly.
he's literally like all he has done, in this scenario is he's put a swing up and then emotionally manipulated them into buying their daughter a whole house.
Oh man, in many ways he could have ruined that relationship. So he could have done.
You mean that like rock solid 1 week relationship?
Yeah,
What a nightmare.
that's the one I'm talking about. Yeah. Oh man.
My favorite quote in this film, and it might be my favorite quote in all of Christmas film history,
Oh really?
and it's that Christmas isn't just a day; it's a frame of mind. And I'm sort of all about that because I'm a festive boy.
Absolutely.
Christmas is by far my favorite time of year, and I'm sort of already a bit down thinking about what happens when it's over, because I mean, we're going into lockdown very soon. As soon as Christmas is over, we're back into a lockdown just that ends just before our birthdays. So we may not even be able to celebrate our birthdays to any degree.
Yeah, I know.
So
Sucks.
I don't know. It's kind of just a depressing thought, thinking that this sort of one day or this one period of immense cheer, there's going to be this massive downward spiral. But I think if you keep the hope and positivity of Christmas alive, you can ride that high for as long as possible. So
Yeah, that's so
I
true,
agree
man.
that
I love
Christmas
that.
is the frame of mind.
I love that. I love what you're saying there, mate. I completely agree with you. I think that is integral to a Christmas film, isn't it? That it has a really good message to it. Like that's what makes a really good Christmas film. And I think that's why the Miracle on 34th Street and also It's a Wonderful Life are so good. Like they've got really great messages to them. So no, I agree with what you're saying, mate, 100%.
Yeah, I find the message of the film like really sweet and heartwarming, which is sort of unusual viewing, I think, for the both of us, because I think I don't know, like I don't know why we punish ourselves, but we watch a lot of like pessimistic films or like rising from the ashes to do something. Like, we don't really go for just a straight hopeful inspiring story, and
Yeah.
that's sort of what both of these films are about. And I think that's just what Christmas films are about. I was it was really it was a nice departure to just leave the cynicism aside.
Absolutely, mate. I think you're right. I think you're right. I think what maybe makes those movies where the character has a deep struggle within them as well, like that's because they're more relatable. Like a Christmas film where it's just constantly happy, like there isn't a lot of relatability in that. But I suppose like that's why they're so successful, because people want to escape from their own lives and watch a good Christmas film. And no, I'd have to agree with you 100%. Like I don't have any more to say on American 34th Street, but what I can say is like I can understand why it's so well received. Like it's so good, it's unreal.
Yeah, I just have a few small points, but
Go for it.
we've already talked about how this film made us feel. It made us feel like really happy, hopeful, inspired.
Yeah.
But there was one moment that I actually found like genuinely funny. Not a laugh out loud funny, but sort of a departure from the more stoicism of like 1940s films.
Yeah.
And it's the joke where Mr. Sawyer, the like self-described psychiatrist, describes himself as happily married for 26 years, and then immediately gets a phone call from his wife and like assassinates her character, being like, "You're a piece of shit. So's your fat brother." Like, and then just
Yeah.
hangs up the phone. And like, I
Yeah.
sort of saw that punchline coming, but like, it is one of the more recognizably funny things in an older film, I think.
Yeah, a hundred
Because I
percent.
think I think like whenever you watch a lot of older films and they make like a joke, or like
Yeah.
or they just say something, and then like someone just goes like, "Ah, ha ha ha, what a humorous thing to say," and you're like, what? uh you know
Yeah.
this was the first time I've recognized, oh, that's actually, they were actually trying to make a joke there and they succeeded.
Yeah.
I think that was like one of the
100%.
only times I've ever
Yeah.
recognized that.
One of my
And
oh, go ahead, mate.
oh yeah, go ahead,
No, I was
Matthew.
gonna, the scene that I find the funniest in the film, and it is quite a funny film, is when like I think her name's like Mrs. Shellhammer, like Mr.
Yeah,
Shellhammer like passes her the phone, and like she's really like drunk, and she's like, you know the scene like like Toy Story where Woody's like, "Hello," like it kind of reminded me of that, where it's just like screaming down the phone. I thought it was great. But no, the film is quite humorous, actually, surprisingly, which is nice.
yeah. I mean, I have to imagine, like Edmund Gwen like must be a comedic actor, because like I think
Yeah.
only a comedic actor can like give that sense of drama but also warmth,
Yeah.
and physical comedy.
Yeah.
Like he must have a background in that. I didn't do any research on him other than his name, but yeah, I thought he was a great comedic presence.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
we've talked a little bit about the romance between Doris and Mr. Gailey. I don't know how he plans on seducing her while sleeping in the same room as a pensioner. When he said like,
Smooth.
"Oh, I've got space for you," I pictured a second room, not them,
Side by
uh,
side.
yeah, being bunkmates.
Yeah, I know. Like like it is I don't like it is quite it's not I don't know if it's as good as the relationship between Mary and George and It's a Wonderful Life, but I think certainly has the qualities. I think they're a good match of like like they're similar and different in the sense that like Doris is quite a cynic regarding Christmas and stuff, and that's kind of counterbalanced by Mr. Gilly and Santa's sort of warmth and love for it. So no, I think it was I think that was it was a nice element of the film, but no, that element of it was quite funny as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think in my opinion they're probably a better match than George and
Hmm.
Mary, because they actually seem to have a mutual interest in each other.
Yeah,
Whereas George just seems like an aloof dickhead who couldn't give a shit.
yeah,
And I think Bailey was by far my favorite character of the film. Even though Chris Kringle was amazing. I think Bailey was my favorite character, and he really seemed like what they were trying to make. Uh, Sorry, I've written Bailey. I did mean Gailey.
yeah. They sound so
The
similar because like George Bailey
yeah,
and
the
then
the
Mr.
character of
Gilly. Yeah,
Bailey is what the people in It's a Wonderful Life were trying to make Bailey. They were trying to make him a man of the people. Where I think they sort of failed in making him a bit of a creep in It's a Wonderful Life. They massively succeeded here with Fred Gailey, because he just has an immediate faith in a person he doesn't even know, and it's not even like I think if it was for he hangs out with Susan for sort of the selfish reason that he wants to have sex with her mom. But I think it's because he knows she's lonely and cynical, and
yeah.
that maybe
He can
that they can
change
help
that.
each other grow and
Yeah,
evolve. And I think they do that. So maybe there's a sense of benevolence there, in that he
that's
thinks
a good
that
point,
they
buddy.
can be good
Actually,
for
yeah.
each other. But I think I think when he decides to take out Kris Kringle's case, that shows more that he cares for Susan rather than just banging Susan's mom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he actually wants to like get Kris free so that he can prove that Christmas magic is real, even if he doesn't believe that Kris Kringle is actually Santa.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really. I love what you're saying there as well, mate. Like they sort of, that is the Christmas spirit as well, like helping each other and stuff, and the fact that Doris and Fred Gilly can sort of help each other evolve as well in their relationship. I thought that was a really sweet, charming touch as well. I think you've nailed it there, mate, for sure.
Yeah, and the character of Judge Harper gets harshly criticized for putting Santa Claus on trial. But surely you would be happy your grandfather was in that position, because then, if you know him well, you could hope that he would judge in Santa's favor. Like, if my granda was in charge of that case, I'd be happy to hear that, because then I have some sway and influence over the potential outcome,
Yeah,
whereas they're like, you're a fucking dickhead,
yeah,
granddad, and, then running
yeah,
away. Not a
yeah.
direct quote from this film,
Close
but,
enough.
close
Close
enough.
enough. For sure.
And you know, did you find Susan's reaction to Kris Kringle telling her that he couldn't sort the house for her a bit ridiculous? Because I mean, Santa famously has elves that like make toys. Did you expect him to like knock up a quick mansion for you? You
Yeah,
know,
in a couple of
like it's
days.
it's not the
Yeah,
standard thing that you get like gift wrapped under a tree.
yeah.
Like Santa isn't about like
Pretty
making
big
your
tree.
wildest dreams come true. It's not your greatest aspirations for the future. It's, what gift do you want that'll make you happy on Christmas Day? I
Yeah,
just think it was a ridiculous standard to
I've never heard.
question him for.
Yeah, you hear kids ask for Action Man or Barbie dolls, but you don't hear of I'll just take a house. Santa, if you've got time, I know you're a busy man. I'll take a lovely house with a swing outside. That'll be great. Like
Yeah,
that.
I mean,
Yeah,
she has a very nice apartment with a housekeeper. Who's like who's constantly like cooking for them and providing emotional support.
yeah,
And yet, she's she has the audacity to like say like it's basically a shithole. And I'm
yeah,
like, seems pretty lovely, especially for a family of two. It seems like
yeah.
you
No,
have
it
a lot of
does.
space, and
It does.
there's a lot of love in that house. And she's like, no, it's shit. And I'm like, wow, okay,
Yeah, I know. I know.
okay,
Kid
maybe
actors,
be a
man.
bit more grateful. Like
Uh,
if they were genuinely like living in poverty, I would be a lot more sympathetic. But her mom is like a very like high executive, it seems, and one of the most well, and according to the owner of the company, the most famous retail shop in all of America. So she's
yeah.
probably
Hmm.
making like some serious bank.
Some serious
So
pay.
I
Yeah.
don't think they're in any like financial
Financial
strife.
trouble. Yeah.
But Susan seems to have an issue for whatever reason.
I know, mate. Oh man, this is why I love reviewing movies with you, mate. You go in deep, but I love it. I love it anyway.
I mean,
Um,
the one thing I agree with her is like I have always wanted a backyard. Like I've always wanted a garden, and that is my like one specification for whenever I move into a house. I mean, people say like with people our age and the I mean, this is just weird now, but like the housing market as it is, the some of well most of us will never actually own a home. We'll probably just be renting or in apartments or whatever.
yeah,
But I desperately want a garden like that. That's my
yeah.
one big
You'll get it one day, mate. You'll get
specification.
it one day. I know a garden's nice.
I hope so.
You will, mate. You
Hope
will.
so.
Any other points from you, bud?
Well, I just wanted to ask you about the ending, because it's sort of left in a vague question of was he really Santa Claus? And I just wanted to know, would you prefer a definitive ending, and also would you prefer a definitive ending where it's definitively proven he's not Santa?
I would like if it wasn't Santa, yeah, because I kind of like the idea of like a random like do-good citizen is doing this and like he's fooled everyone into thinking he's Santa. It's like is his genius plan. I don't know how he would have like like frauded all those letters to himself, but anyway, I think it would have been a really charming idea to have him be like an anonymous sort of guy who just wants to do good in society and bring the Christmas magic back. What about you, bud?
In that scenario, is he insane or is he conscious of the decision he's making?
Conscious, I think. The insane, I don't know. Like I think the insane arguments, it's cool, but like I don't know. I think the charming message of the film it wouldn't really fit with the insane argument for me personally. But that being said,
Yeah,
I can see both ways, 100%. What about you, Cal?
yeah, I agree with you. I think the big part of this film is the faith and the magic that he brought to this family, rather than whether he is actually Santa. Because I think it's really just about how he touched their lives, not how and how important he was, to the city of New York.
Yeah.
It is irrelevant whether he's Santa or not. And yeah, I agree with you. I think I think this is the right ending where it's left to interpretation. But in my mind, he's not Santa,
Yeah.
and I think he's just a do good guy. I've heard some darker theories that he's like uh
The stalker.
well, no, like it was because there's sort of this idea put forward by Mr. Sawyer that people who dress up as Santa have some sort of like deep guilt complex, and I read somewhere that
Oh
that
no.
he himself had a big guilt complex, and that's why I had this big reaction to that being suggested, because he was just like an ex-army vet uh who just murdered a bunch of people, and then
Sorry, that
was
Santa.
was atoning for his sins,
That's certainly one theory.
through being Santa, which
That's
was
a lot.
a bit full on. I prefer to go for just like a jolly do-gooder.
Yeah.
That's my preferred stance.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, mate, absolutely. If you're gonna rate the film out of 10, mate. Oh, sorry, have you finished your points? Sorry, I didn't
Yeah,
want
yeah.
to
I
jump.
have.
Yeah, what would you give it, mate?
In all honesty, I think this is a perfect Christmas film. We're going to be talking about our favorite Christmas films, but I think if we were to do a revised list sometime next year,
This
I
would
mean, obviously we
be
don't need to talk about this a second time, but I think it's now firmly up there in my favorite
absolutely.
Christmas films of all time.
Likewise.
So I would give the film a 10 out of 10.
Oh, I mean, that's great. I love everything you said about that film, buddy. I think you went really, really in depth for that. I love that. For me, I'd agree with everything you said. I think the message of the film is so good. The characters are so good. It's so unconventionally Christmas, but it is in its own way integrally Christmas as well. I have to give it a 9 out of 10. Big fan, big fan. I think this is one of the first times you've rated a film higher than me as well. I love that. I love it. And
Yeah,
we both like these
there was the
films.
one time where I think in Unconventional Romances we gave every single one 10 out of 10, so it
I
was like
think
a 40
so.
out of 40 episode, and I thought that was insane. But yeah, I don't think I've ever rated a movie higher than you, other than maybe like my favorite ones of all time.
Yeah.
Uh, I think I really need to watch 500 Days of Summer again to get in your mind
I love
space.
that film, man. I love that.
Because I've only seen it the once. If you had to throw out a figure of how many times you think you've watched
It's
it,
got to be
because
above
it's about
40. It's got to be above 40. Like at
oh,
this
it's
point,
well above 40.
it's got to be, mate. It's 500. No, it's got to be a big number, mate. But anyway, yeah, as Callum said at the start of this episode, we're going to be uploading a lot more videos to the channel with us too. And I'm just going to pass over to Callum to explain what those videos are going to be coming out in the next couple of days and on Christmas Day as well. So Callum, off to you, man.
Yes, so we're sort of cramming a lot in when we're doing a big recording session on Thursday. We're hoping, and we've made some plans, and restrictions provided everything is ironed out, everything's cool. Matthew will be coming around to my house on Thursday, which is Christmas Eve. We'll be doing a big recording session, multiple episodes, and that'll
Absolutely.
be the first filmed in-person podcast episode. So that's something a little bit special for Christmas. Our gift to you.
Our gift
You
to
know,
you,
you know, says
exactly. Yeah.
says something a little new, special, and different. So the first episode that will be coming out will be our favorite Christmas films ever. Matthew has bent the rules a little and has chosen a TV film,
I
which
have.
is
I
the
have.
Doctor Who episode Voyage of the Damned, which I just remember as the Titanic episode with Kylie Minogue in it.
Yep.
I don't know much beyond that. I have seen it a few times, but it's been a fair few years. Matthew's second choice was Elf, and
Absolutely.
which of course I've seen as well. And with it being one of your favorite films, I assume you've seen it a fair few times.
Have seen it. Big fan. Big fan. I'm really looking forward to your two films though, man.
Yeah, so my two choices were first Gremlins, which I've seen multiple times throughout the years, but it's been a few years, and I'm hoping it holds up. But at this moment in my mind, that's my number one. And number two, I did want to choose Home Alone for the sake of talking about them chronologically, but I'd be lying to myself if I didn't honestly believe that Home Alone 2: Lost in New York is the better film. So that is the film that we'll be
Love
talking
it.
about.
Love that.
So on that day, we'll be talking those four films. We're also going to be talking about Wonder Woman 84. Is it 84 or 1984?
I
Because
think it's
I've seen it.
1984, but it's weird.
Yeah,
I just
I
call it
think so.
84.
Yeah, I've seen it marketed as both. So Matthew's seen that film, and I'm seeing that film tomorrow. So we'll be talking about that on Thursday, and hopefully that'll be up sometime around 26th, 27th, maybe,
Boxing Day
you know,
special.
yeah, Matthew's time permitting, of course, because Matthew's our editor extraordinaire.
Oh,
You know, and also on that Thursday to preempt the new release of the sequel, the hotly anticipated sequel to
hotly
Shark Boy and Lava Girl,
anticipated.
We Can Be
Yes.
Heroes, coming out on Christmas Day. We will be talking about the OG Shark Boy and Lava Girl. Now, Matthew,
Yeah.
have you seen this film?
I have not seen this film yet, but I'm looking forward to seeing it. I think I
What
might have
did you
seen
do with
this.
your childhood?
I think I might have seen it. I think I might have seen it, but it's been a while. I think it's been a while, so it'll be like a fresh viewing for me, which I'm super excited. It's gonna be like a Dora and the Lost City of Gold. I said this to you a few times. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good.
Yeah, my brother has recently come home from England, where he currently lives, and it's one of his favorite, probably nostalgic childhood films.
Love it.
And I think I hope that he watches it with me, because I don't think I want to watch this film alone. Like, it's fucking dreadful, in a way. You know, I mean, in
But good.
every way, like
And
it's
every
dreadful.
yeah.
Yeah,
But that's what makes it great. You know what I mean? Guilty pleasure. Guilty pleasure. But no, as Callum was saying, Christmas Eve is our gonna be recording session, and we're gonna have our camera there. We're gonna you're gonna see us in person. We're gonna see each other in person. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be awesome. Looking forward to it. But yeah, thanks very much for today, Callum, for your time. Appreciate you,
thank you.
brother. Thanks so much, everyone who's watched the episode. Please be sure to like, subscribe, comment your thoughts down below. And yeah, hope you're all safe and well. Hope your family and friends are all safe and well. Take care, everyone, and bye bye.
Bye bye.